What's up, guys? You're on a little early because we're on the YouTubes, but we shall be going live here very shortly. Okay. Just fixing a few things. How's everyone doing today? Container is width 100%, and then we will delete that. All right. Now we just need to get the video. Okay, so let's share. I'll embed responsively. YouTube, okay. Hmm. One moment, guys. Going live in about 2 minutes. As soon as I figure out how this works. Hang on. Hang on here. Let's do this, and then we take this. Excellent. Okay. So grab that, and then we go here. Here, we hit embed, we copy this, we hit this, we hit update. Okay. It's not going to be perfect, but whatever. All right. So, Live Room should be good to go. Let me just test. We are good. Looks like audio is decent enough. I will make sure we're good there. And we'll get started any second here, guys. Okay, Live Room is good to go. I'm live now. Kind of cutting it down to the wire here because we've been jamming on this new tech. And it's been a little finicky because let's go. All right. So let me make sure I've got the chat pulled up here so that I can see you lovely people. Volume is a bit low. Let me boost that up a bit. And then we'll go. What's up, Warren? Okay, how's this for audio here? A little better here? Excellent. Okay. So, exciting stuff. We've got that turned on, and we've got this. Whew. Okay. So, we've got about 14 folks on right now. People are piling in because we just mailed the link to actually join the webinar. If you're interested with your people's /live room is the actual URL to this thing. So I'm going to pin that in here while we get things jamming. Can't really hear you. Still can't really hear you. Okay, let me adjust that output volume. Sound settings. To go to sound. And we're going to go to output. And we're going to output to, or no, we're going to go to our input. Ah. Okay. That should be a bit better. Sounds fine here. How about now? How about now? Let me know if that gets a little wonky, but I'm going to pop this over here. And I don't know how to spell announcement. Boom. Boom. So, how's everyone doing today? Where's everyone chiming in from? Okay, sound is good. Sweet. Better, not good. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on it, but we ought to get started here about 5 after. We might give ourselves a few more minutes to fire things up. Oh, but guys, I've been up since about 4:30 a.m. We overhauled this whole new system, so excited to show y'all. Mr. Warren from Jersey. Got us some California, some Tallahassee. Oh yeah, there is quite a little bit of a delay on the chat. So if well, I'm just reminding myself. All right. So, let's do this thing. Wow, Banku. That's a little bit of ways. What's up, Chris? San Diego. Are you like behind me, Chris? You might be. Let me double check with the team that went out. Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, I will keep an eye on chat, make sure everything is started. Today, I have some slides, but we'll pull them up later. We'll do some fun stuff first. We'll some silly stuff. But yeah, today we are going to take a look at a new set of features that we've built into this platform I've been working on for quite a while now. Movable Type. How many of you are familiar with Movable Type? If you're on my list, if ecosystem, you probably are. I only emailed folks who are kind of intimately associated with my jam and what I'm going on. Dude, you're in Point Loma? I love Point Loma. Stu's in Point Loma too? What in the world? You guys are like right over there. I used to live in Point Loma. But yeah, so Movable Type, for those who don't know, most of you probably know, but just in case you don't, it is a platform that we've been working on tirelessly, and it's my full-time gig now. It's 100% of my focus, 10 to 12 hours a day, pretty much every day, to help people write books. We started with the basic premise of, can we generate an entire book with one big idea? And we accomplished that for the most part already. So the basic flow right now is you give this thing a big idea and it will iterate upon itself and create a book. So we'll demo that in a little bit. But today I want to talk about some stuff that expands the impacted this thing dramatically for folks, especially if you want to expand your audience outside of your initial spoken language. So we've got that as a little tidbit, but we also built in the ability using some fancy workflows to actually generate audiobooks now. So that's pretty sick. We've got all new functionality around that, which we'll demo and show you, and it is going live this week. It's pretty much live now. I haven't turned it on for everybody simply because I want to debug a few more things, but we're there. It's working. All right, so let's do this. How many of you in the chat have either thought of writing a book or have completed a book or started writing the book or wanted to write a book? Anybody? Let's sound off a little bit and see how many folks fall in that category. Have wanted to, but not, let's just say not published yet. A few folks. I'm taking my shoes off. I'm getting comfy, guys. We're going to be here for a minute. Yeah, most people, and I fall in that category. Here, I want to show you something. We're here in WeWork, by the way, downtown San Diego. Got a little office down here. So this is my baby right here, and literally the pain and anguish of writing this book is what started this software. I'm sure most of you have gone down the rabbit hole of trying to write your own book, would agree that it's easier said than done, or there's a lot of assumptions we make about how simple it can be, and then you start to get into it and not as easy as you thought. Now, here's the funny thing. It's not so much about the knowledge that you have in your head. It's not that you don't know your stuff, or you don't know how to research, or you don't know even so much you don't know how to write, which actually is part of it. But the biggest part for me, and tell me if you agree with this, the toughest part was actually structuring the content. You know, I wrote a chapter, I would restructure it, or restructure the whole book. I would move things around. And honestly, it was just overwhelming. Like, that was the biggest overwhelm for me. Anybody else experience that headache of trying to get things in the right order? The conclusion I came to eventually was that books are not structured like our brains. Books are very linear and programmatic, almost like an algorithm. And our brains are webs. They're big, webs of neurons all connected in different ways. So when you're thinking, your thoughts are interconnected, your ideas are interconnected, and it's hard to categorize them. And then when you go to a piece of paper to actually start categorizing, like, well, this could be a chapter, it could be a section, it could be a part of a chapter. And that organization process breaks our brains a little bit, especially if you have ADHD like myself. It can definitely be a challenge. Now, the idea, again, with Movable Type is to take that quote-unquote algorithm, the structure of the book, and hand it off to AI and let AI do the heavy lifting. Obviously, we're all familiar with the impact AI has taken, all that beautiful ChatGPT nonsense out there. We've taken it a little further and focused in on the magic of using this technology to not just generate, but to structure information. When you go into ChatGPT and you start questioning, iterating on things or prompting it, the outputs, they don't really provide you obviously any structure. It's a conversation structure. So when you want to put that in, say, a book form, it's a bit more complex. Has anybody in here tried to write a book with ChatGPT, by the way? I'm sure many of you have played around with that concept. But let's just take a look for those who haven't seen it in action. We'll do a quick little demo and walk through that so that we can walk through the other parts we're announcing today. One of the bigger components that actually I haven't even done any videos on, haven't really shown off, but our members know about it, are our author personas. And this is a built-in piece of the software that helps you or helps it write in your tone and style. I've got a bunch of test ones in here, folks. I've played around with, demoed. But the idea here is that when you generate an author persona, it's going to create a guide on how to write in your voice. This is fairly new approach to getting the technology to sound like you. I'm sure many of you have played around with ChatGPT and be like, wow, this thing, I wish it could sound more like me. This is our approach to solving that problem. Now, the way it works, we'll just create a new one here. I think some of you nerds might appreciate the back end of this thing, how it technically works, but we'll talk about the concepts too here. So we're going to make one just for me, Sean Vossler. And again, Sean Vossler is my full name. The profile name, I'm going to say Sean Vossler latest. All right. Now, there's two ways that this works. One, you can add in biological. Not yet. We don't have to put in biological data. Put in biographical data. And just so we're tracking here, when you come in, if you're we've got folks in here hanging out, just let me know you're here. Say hey, jump in chat, raise your hand, all that good stuff. And we'll keep on rolling here. Okay. So we can either add in manual biographical data, like our little bio that we might write up for a press release kind of thing, or we can actually build it from a LinkedIn profile. And this is my preferred approach. I'm going to show you why here in a moment. But you literally just type in your LinkedIn ID and verify that you're the person here. Now, we save this out, and it's going to go do its thing. But let me talk about how this works a little bit and see if this tracks. Let me know this tracks here, guys. When you're writing anything, whether you're instructing someone how to write like yourself, or you're writing your own content, or trying to get ChatGPT to sound like you, a lot of folks take the approach of, hey, let me upload this information or give somebody something I've already written, and from there they can discern how to write like me. Craig saying the volume C logo is still looking good on my end. Let me just drop it up just a hair. If it gets a little cracky, let me know, guys. But how's that, Craig? Just dropped it up just a hair. Sometimes if I get out of the way of the mic, it drops off a bit. But back to the thought, a lot of folks take the approach of, hey, I wish I could feed AI like something I've already written and let it determine how to sound like me. Now, that approach seems logical, and a lot of times it'll work, especially if you write a ton and you've developed a writing style, like you have a very particular type of writing. However, I found with most folks, especially if you're not like a published author and you haven't written hundreds and hundreds of pages of content, excuse me, still getting over a cold a little bit, your tone and style is actually not really defined. It's just what you've your approach to writing. So that doesn't translate exactly well. Like, we haven't given an intentional thought to how we want to sell. Now, our approach we're taking here with these author profiles, their personas, is that we're examining all the details within your LinkedIn, because it's taking your job background, your background experience, your school experience, any published works you have, stuff like that. And what it's doing is it's going and crafting a tone and style for you. The difference being that it's intentional. It's looking at, hey, this person, they're in the biotech industry, so they want to be a little more precise and blah, blah, blah language. And, for me, this one here, characterized by energetic, empowering, and visionary tone, fused with passion, call to action, inspiring. So it's basing this on the fact that I'm in the entrepreneurial space. I have a startup, all that good stuff. And what we can do at this phase, if we want, see, it's taken my bio here, wrote out a bio, all that good stuff here. We can go in here and modify the profile. Like, if we're like, well, that doesn't sound like me. You could modify this, modify it to your heart's content kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the idea being that we are crafting proactively the way we want to sound, instead of just leaving it up to chance. Does that make sense? That track? That's why we take that approach, as opposed to having you like dump a bunch of your writing in there. We want you to be intentional about your tone and style, refine it, and then use it in the book generation. Now, within our book generation itself, we can have no author persona attached to something, and that'll just have a default kind of overall, nonfiction-esque problem solution book tone. We'll take a look at some of the outputs examples here in a little bit, but I really like to use the author tone and style in my own books. But let's go ahead and make a project, because I want to use a new project in the new features demonstration. So let's make a book about finding your tone and style in writing. Let's do that. Now, losing volume. I'm going to do my best to just keep my face up to this mic. If it starts getting really goofy, let me know. Okay. So anybody who hasn't seen this thing in action, the big idea here is that we're creating right now, we're building on a framework of books called a problem solution book. And to me, digging through all the potential frameworks out there in the nonfiction space, this is the most practical when it comes to a business use case. So whether it's you want to get more leads, you want to build credibility, you're wanting to sell the book in a Amazon store, whatever, like the problem solution book, tried and tested, your target audience has a problem, you're trying to give them a solution and build up your reputation in the field. So that's our main framework here. We're outlining and building out some new ones like memoirs and other approaches to nonfiction books. But for now, we're sticking with the problem solution book. Seems to be the nice practical use case for most folks. Stu asks, author persona is brilliant. Is there a reader persona? Yeah, so that's a really exciting part of this thing. So when we're generating the book, we let the book topic itself drive our target audience persona, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let's just go ahead and get this going. So I'm going to select my author persona here that we just generated, and I'm going to use it. Might as well use this. So you can do a few little different options here where you're either using your author persona bio in the book itself or not. If you don't want to use that, you can. And we can select using tone and style throughout. So those are options there on what you're looking to do. Now, this is really the essence of the approach we're taking here to create this stuff. And it's the big idea behind the book. Now, anybody love the word thesis? Anybody's like a huge fan of that? That I'm not really. But the idea being here, this is the crux of our book. And it can take any form. You can get in here, get nitty gritty. You can give it a lot of context, a little bit of context. We're going to keep it nice, simple, and short. Since this is our book on finding your tone and style and writing as an author, we're just going to expand on that. We're going to say, this book covers the concepts in developing your tone and style as I'm going to say as a writer. It provides context on tone and style and what it means for an author and approaches to improving their writing styles. Again, it doesn't have to be like proper English. It can be run on sentences. It's just getting the core idea here of what we're looking for this book to do. The crux, the thesis, yeah. Now in here, and we're expanding this out, working on the next iteration of this thing where you're going to be able to add a ton more context. So if you have a lot of research, papers you've done, notes, highlights from Kindle, all that stuff. You'll be able to attach it in here. It does a fair enough job without much context, as long as your core idea is really strong. So I'm just going to leave it blank. But in here, a lot of people do, they drop in a book outline they've been working on. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Now within here too, it does generate marketing materials, which is pretty sick. We're going to create a cover image, and this is pretty sick. We're going to include custom frameworks and custom processes. Now what those are, I won't go too in depth. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started. We're just going to do this. Let's do some credibility building with this one, and let's make it a funnel piece. Let's go ahead and get that started, and we'll talk about what these custom frameworks and processes are. I feel like I'm missing. Got to select a category. Let's just do writing. Let's do business writing. Okay. All right, so we're going to start it down its little path here as it's going, and boop, it's going to start doing its thing. Now, what's happening here in the background, assuming this thing's going to roll, is we are, let's see here, just a second here. So the fun thing about doing this live is things can go goofy. Let's just make sure this is running in the background here. I've been experimenting with some stuff lately, or today, in fact, and it's been a little slower on the back end here. Let's see. All right, this is great demoing, ain't it here? 1 second. Why did this? I wonder if it's because I'm logged in as an admin. Hang on. Don't mind me. All right. 1 second, guys. While I'm getting this thing to run, because literally we've done over 3,000 projects with our customers and clients and internal users. And of course, the one time I'm demoing it, it decides, we're good. We don't need to do that. All right, let me just hit this one button. Should be good to go. Oh, there it goes. All right. Well, that works. Now we're back. All right, there we go. I guess it's going. Okay, it's in queue. Boop, boop. All right, let's turn that back on. All right. Sorry, guys. That's embarrassing. It's the beauty. So I will say, while this thing's going, the beauty of running a SaaS software company is just the number of variables that go into this stuff. Absolutely blows my mind. All right, here we go. We're running. So what's happening right now? In the background, since we know the big idea behind our book, it's doing what, who was this? I think it was Stu asked about the author persona. It's baking the cake, or at least getting the recipe ready to bake the cake. In context of creating a book, what do you need to know when you write a book? Well, a few things. We need to know who it's for, who are the problem that the book solves for folks, the time frame in which the book itself should be written. It's trying right now a few different approaches. It looks like, I swear this thing is self-aware sometimes. It's going kind of haywire. But excellent. It's going through and generating all that awesomeness for us, planning the project itself. Now, this process usually takes a minute or two and up to 15 minutes. And then we get to actually review the outputs and modify them. So it looks like it's done with phase 1, and we're now into phase 2. Warren has a problem with his eyes. Maybe. Oh, daggone it, you're right. My video is too big, Warren. Sorry about that, dude. My bad. Okay. So here we are. Our book generated. The first phase of the book. Build our book. Now, from here, we can go through and modify a bunch of awesome stuff in here if we want. And this is where a lot of time being spent is in your favor. You can go in and refine these variables that go into creating your book. We've got our results that we want the book to bring in, the time frame someone could expect to get the results. Came up with the title here, Echoes of Self, Crafting Your Signature Voice in Writing. Subtitle is Mastering the Art of Distinctive Tone and Style, Captivating Your Audience Today. Now, in the back end on the technical side, not to get too nerdy, it's in a way talking to itself. So it'll generate something, it will review it. We're using a couple different AI models, GPT-4 for the most part. And through the different flows and iterations of this, it's coming up with what it determines to be the best base set of inputs to create your full book with. And a lot of times folks know better, so that's why we give you the ability to go in here and edit the proposal so you can go in and refine all these base details, especially if you have a really specific idea in mind of what you want the book to look like, sound like, all that good stuff. But for me, for now, I'm pretty happy with the basics here, and I'm going to let it do its thing. Again, and you can modify the outline as well. This is what it determined would be a really outline for this book. And for now, we're going to let it do its thing. So we'll go ahead and prove this for generation, and it's going to go off and do its thing. So Turner Turan asks, I'm curious, how does it do target market research? AI normally lacks emotional intelligence. How does it reflect emotions? You're right. Well, it's interesting. A lot of AI does lack emotions. GPT-4 is definitely above average when it comes to emotional intelligence and understanding, say, someone's point of view in the process of, someone's point of view, like their situation that they're in, the problem we're trying to solve. In fact, I already have it closed down, but here, we'll just go into this one. Part of the thing that I really like here is this, in that context of emotional intelligence, all that is our target audience situation. So this book here, bookmaking guide. Imagine them a professional, no stranger to the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurial adventure, who lives in the thrill. So it's writing up like almost like a character sketch of our target audience here. This one's a little more flowy, but that's the idea. Is we're getting into the mindset of our target reader, right? Sean, if I change the content on number of items, will it go back and generate all the new pages? Yeah. So right now the approach we're taking is we're sticking to a pretty specific structure for the books themselves. We're keeping it at a 10 chapter build right now because that seems to be about the amount you need to not go overboard, where you're getting outside the scope of the book, but not short enough that we're not covering enough of the solutions to the problem at hand. Down the line, definitely are building out different approaches to doing this. Let's say you want to make like a short lead generation tool that's only, say, 30 pages. That's going to be a different flow than a 20 chapter book. The problem that we ran into is when you want the book to be cohesive, doing something like a chapter by chapter generation becomes much more difficult. So our new approach that we're working on in the back end is letting you do a chapter by chapter build, but in the beginning you kind of select the scope of the book. And you can expand it, of course, but it's going to redo the outline as you expand it. So in short, right now, no, it doesn't work that way, David, for a particular reason that we want it to be a cohesive message, kind of beginning, middle, end. But down the line, we're building in some new approaches that Does it write all the chapters at the same time? Yeah. So in a way, Chris, it is writing them all at the same time, but it's also generating in the back end super fine, detailed instructions for each chapter, so that the cohesiveness of the build stays there. So we can see in the background here, it's going through and writing those. And we've been refining this for the last 6 months or so, and still a lot of awesomeness we can add to it, but we're getting there. All right. So it's still going here. This can take 5 to 10 minutes, so we'll let it do its thing. We'll talk a little bit more. Any questions on the basic like flow here? So just to recap, we're building our author persona to influence the tone and style of the book. We're and again, if say if you have clients, you can always create personas for them and run it through their name as well. Then we're building out the basic components of our book, we're using AI to help generate those, but we can of course go in and refine that. A lot of folks spend a couple days sometimes getting that hyper detailed in the way they want it. And then in this third step here, we are actually generating the full book. Plenty of other approaches we could look into doing down the line. This seems to be the optimized way of doing it. All right, so it looks like it finished all 10 chapters here. And let's see. Looks like should be popping up here any second. And the way that we've integrated this is when it's finished, it actually syncs with your Google Drive and Google Docs, simply because we find that's where most people end up putting it anyways. Like they just copy and paste it in there. And then from there you can edit to your heart's content. And I want to talk a little bit about the structure of the content itself. So we have our full book here. Looks like this iteration is about 114 pages, give or take. We have a couple different versions of that you can select from. This one's a little more concise version, so about 25K words on the subject of finding your tone and style in writing. Now, real quick, I want to touch on, before we demo a lot of the new cool stuff that we've been working on, the structure of the book itself is based on, we've got our preface, our 10 chapters, and within those chapters, we have a couple different really fun components. Oh, just through the left speaker. Oh, that's exciting. Interesting. It should be going through both, but sorry about that. Okay, let's talk on the structure here. And real quick, Stu, yeah, you can go and just file, export or download as a EPUB, and then use the Kindle publishing thing. We'll talk a little bit about some of the copyright stuff that is going on right now, because I think that a lot of people have questions about that we can talk about. But real quick, just to touch on the structure of these books, and I'll go ahead and open the Google Doc in another tab so we can take a closer look, kind of zoom in. It's kind of hard to read on this screen. So let me zoom in here to say 150%. So we've got our preface, and the idea here is that we're inviting kind of our first touch with them, breaking down the concepts of the book, thanking them for picking it up, all that good stuff. Now, the idea here is it gives you a structure to start with. You can expand on the ideas. You can add your own perspective right in here if you want as well. But it's a good starting point for anybody, I think. All right. So you can see here, it took my bio and injected some components here. Having founded Movable Type, navigated dynamic landscape of marketing technology, I've witnessed the incredible potential that lies in articulating ideas with precision and flair. So you can see here, it's pulling from our author bio, as I included that, and it's parsing details in here as well. Oh yeah, so Increased Academy, Movable Type, all that good stuff. All right, so the chapters themselves, the structure is right now fairly strict, because again, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, one of the toughest parts is that structure. And while this is still quite dynamic, and it's going to have different variables that shape the chapter, it's a perfect starting point for anybody to dive right in and start making it their own. Each chapter opens up with a first-person point of view story based on the situation or the solution that the chapter covers for the problem. And it's from the point of view of someone experiencing that. So it's designed to be very empathetic with our reader. It can be a little flowy sometimes. It looks like, let's see, Amelia sat down at the edge of her grandmother's weathered porch, the wooden planks creaking under the weight of history as she watched the sun begin to slow descent on the horizon. The orange light painted her face with warmth, yet she felt a chill down her spine as she mulled over the manuscript resting in her lap. Setting the stage here, she was on the verge of sharing her life's most intimate reflections through her writing, an act that both thrilled and terrified her. So the idea is it's painting the picture of someone experiencing that problem, right, of the chapter, which is this symphony of self, crafting a voice true to you. So let's see, unleashing. I'd have to read it to give you more context, but the idea here is that we want to draw people in through that first section. Then it goes into our learning, our outline, our learning objectives. If we go over here and we look at our here real quick, it's going to cover the importance of personal experience in shaping your writer's voice, recognizing ways in which authenticity and writing can influence the reader. So that's our first chapter. It's going to break down all those concepts. Now you'll notice in this chapter, we actually have something very interesting. We have a step-by-step walkthrough. Now remember when we first set up the project, we enabled those frameworks and those processes. What happens in the back end is it will go and out on its own and design some frameworks based on content within the chapters, and it will decide which chapters it thinks those frameworks and processes should be in. So it evidently thought this step-by-step process, this 4-step process of ensembling to engage and captivate should go in this chapter here. And as we go down through, we'll see sometimes there's frameworks, sometimes there's not. Usually there's a step-by-step. Yeah, here we go. Conductor's blueprint. So those get injected at various chapters. It determines which chapters ideally would have those frameworks in there, but it adds a lot of variety and flair to the book itself. Okay, so that's the core idea, and then it'll close out the book itself, recapping a lot of the contents, going into the nitty-gritty of the core ideas, and then it'll write out a conclusion. Usually has a really interesting ending here. I spent a lot of time getting this fine-tuned, but let's see. Let this be not an end, but the beginning, an invitation to write fearlessly, to express uniquely and impact profoundly. The pages ahead of your life's book await your indelible ink. May you write them with courage, creativity, conviction. And then a quote. I don't know if it came up with this one or this is an actual quote out here. We may have to Google it. Your voice is the bravest thing you own. May you use it with wisdom, with love, and above all purpose. In this river of words and wisdom, remember the world awaits your stories told in a voice only you can offer. Set forth, emboldened by the power of your unique expression, and let your words echo the depths of your distinct, irreplaceable self. All right. Big concept here. Again, give you a manuscript that I wish I had when I was starting my book, right? If I would have had a framework to build off of, to expand upon, to refine, I would have saved probably a couple hundred hours and a lot of stress. Now, I don't want to dig too deep into the arguments here or there about, is it a cheat code for writing? Is this really an author? Well, we can talk about that more in the Q&A section perhaps. But now I want to actually demo what we're here for, some of the new features now that we have our project. We have two exciting things to look at. First, I'll show you both. We have translations and we have audiobooks. which is brand new. Translations, audiobooks, something, the names themselves kind of give away exactly what to do, but let's dig into it a little bit. Now, OpenAI released something recently, which we are using in a way I don't think they anticipated. So if I go to MovableType.ai/languages, I'm going to link to this for you guys to check this out. Yeah, well, David, we'll talk about that here in a second. It's a good question. But we've tapped into their tool set again to be able to generate new versions of the book in about 50 different languages at the moment is where we're at. And the quality, I went through, we've been beta testing this for a while and giving this to a lot of different folks who speak different languages, getting their feedback, refinement. And so far the feedback is pretty wild. Any bilingual folks on here? Curious as we go through here. Now, as I was getting this stream set up, I realized my audio does not actually go through the OBS, the tool I'm using to stream right now. So I'm gonna try. Let's just try and see if it works right now. Hang on. Okay, I'm not seeing the audio play through the speaker here. So we're gonna try something. This may work, may not. I'm gonna do this. All right, so output. So MacBook Pro speakers. All right. We're gonna do this the old-fashioned way. We're gonna actually try and play sound through the speakers and pick them up with a microphone. I'm optimistic. Let's see.
Becoming ever more fluid. In an age where borders are becoming ever more fluid, the power of your words can and should transcend the confines of language. Imagine your book in the hands of readers.
Okay, so that's the English version. Obviously, we're talking about, and we're talking about audio translation. So here's a little demo of like Spanish.
En una era donde las fronteras se vuelven cada vez más fluidas, el poder de tus palabras puede y debería trascender las limitaciones del lenguaje.
Conceptually, pretty darn dope. Now, the exciting thing here with the translation is we're not using like a Google Translate translation, which mainly focuses on like word for word translation. Since we're using a large language model, this costs us quite a bit more, but we're able to translate not just the text and the grammar, which is huge, but we're able to translate the context as well. So language that you're translating to, it will also determine if a specific metaphor or analogy is going to translate well in the other language. I meant to come up with some better examples, just pressed for time. But think about it this way. If you're an English speaker, especially in the United States, we use a lot of like nautical metaphors and analogies. And those just might not translate in another culture. So the idea here with this translation tool is we're not just translating those, the language, we're translating the metaphors as well. So that technology is built right in. In fact, we'll do a quick translation here of our project that we just created. Well, it's not terribly quick because it actually has to iterate through the entire book and translate line by line, but let's at least get one started here. So we'll do the book we just did, and let's go ahead and just translate it to Spanish. So you can see we've got a lot of languages here to choose from, but let's go ahead and just pull up Spanish here, and we'll let it do its thing. Now it's going to take a little while. It's going to do its thing in the background, and it's pretty exciting, right? Pretty cool. The idea is at the end, we're going to come out with a Google Doc just like our project itself. And sorry about the background noise here. And it's going to show up in our translation tab here in that new language. So it's going to go through, Again, this takes a little bit of time, but I'll show you a couple of different examples here. So we have one in Dutch here, a book I was playing with, and pretty wild stuff. Everybody we've been working with to get these translations dialed in just right, the translations are spot on so far. I haven't been able to get verification on every language just yet, but the ones we have, it's pretty wild. Okay. Now, that's translation. We'll let it do its thing. It could take a little while. We'll get notified when it's done. Now, in the back end too, we have audiobooks. Demo that. How many of you prefer audiobooks over what's the other? Oh, reading. Sorry. My brain is currently fried, I think. I would say for the most part, a lot of us would, it depends on our mood, right? We probably have a mix of both that we're into. For me personally, I like to listen to it first. Then I like to skim the book. Well, let's see the order. I like to skim the book, reading it, just going through, finding key components I like. Then I like to listen to it. And then I like to actually like read it again. Audible. Yeah, I'm a huge Audible listener myself. I got a lot of credits I need to use though. A few stats. We won't spend a lot of time on this stuff, but I want to show you guys. I mean, the market here is expanding rapidly in favor of audio, especially as a lot of us just end up not having the time to sit down and read anymore. So it's nice to be able to go and listen to a book as you go. And this was an interesting, I didn't know this, but audiobooks passed ebook revenue for the first time in 2019, and it's been getting bigger and bigger. Alex Hormozi actually did something really interesting in his books. I don't have them. Well, they're over there. But in the beginning of his book, he actually recommends picking up the audiobook, and he gives the link to it. In the physical, he recommends that. And then just through that link generates loads of extra sales of the same book, just in different mediums, right? Audiobooks, the market is growing. I think this is all pretty straightforward. We understand the concepts here, right? I don't need to go too in depth. But another big part of this puzzle, and this is something if you go out and look at, the different people out there selling how to write books and how to make book funnels, almost inevitably they have the cart bump be the audiobook, right? The upsell to the actual book be the audiobook, right? Is it weird that, is it uncommon, you think? I'm curious from just anecdotal in here. How many of you like buy the Kindle book and then end up getting the audiobook as well if you really like the book, right? I think most people are in the same boat as me. Is like, if you really like the book, if it's useful, you end up picking up both. That's exciting in itself, right? So we're going to let it, well, let's see. It's still prepping. It's going to take a little while. Generally takes 20, 30 minutes. Might not even be done by the time we're done. But to that effect too, the translation part comes in, and like, I think it's pretty obvious to see if your book is in multiple languages, you have a much larger opportunity to distribute it, right? And the fact that we can do audio and text translation is pretty wild. I haven't seen anyone else doing that, especially in the book space. It takes quite a bit of computing power and expense to make that happen. But since we're able to do it in Spanish, which is huge, Chinese, which is it's catching up to be the biggest audiobook market outside the US, followed by Europe. So it's in the top 3. We can do Chinese right out the gate. Is the link in the comment? Sorry. Yeah, so you know what? I'll link in an audiobook. I'll link you guys some demos of that as well. But just to show you kind of how the workflow works here for the audiobooks, once you have a book complete, here, you're able to just go into audiobooks and create a new audiobook and select that book and generate it. Now we have quite a few different voices to choose from. Let me see if I can. I know the audio's a little weird and I can't quite demo this perfectly because I'm going to have to use the mic to show the audio. But let me just give you a taste of some of the different audio styles we have in the back end for the audiobooks. And these are named after some of our first members, by the way.
Hello, I'm Alloy. Here's a demo of my voice for Movable Type audiobooks. With Movable Type, writing your book is a breeze. What most don't consider...
Hello, I'm Echo. Here's a demo of my voice for Movable Type audiobooks.
Hello, I'm Fable. Here's a demo of my voice for Movable Type audiobooks. With Movable Type...
Hello, I'm Nova. Here's a demo.
Hello, I'm Onyx.
All right, so you get the idea. The quality, the cadence is pretty darn wild. I'll show you an actual live example of a book, and we'll listen to a couple here just to give you guys an idea of what's possible. This is one me and my wife been working on. Our kids love the book Bluey, so we generated a book that dives into the concepts of parenting and connecting with your kids in context of the show Bluey. So if it's a pretty niche book, but if you like that show, then you know how powerful it can be, right? But we've got a couple different examples here of and what I'll do, let me just, I'm going to click this link and I'll link this over to you guys. Oops, hang on. Demo of chapter. So the really exciting thing about this is text to audio has been around for a while. Obviously, in general, it's been around for decades almost. But what's new with the approach of the large language models is they have cadence now. What that means it actually will enunciate and change the tone and inflection based on the sentence structure. So let's listen to a few examples of that and why this is so powerful.
Movable Type welcomes you to this special audiobook presentation of Heartstrings: Nurturing Parent-Child Bonds with Bluey's Wisdom. Discover the secrets to joyful parenting and strong connections in just a few weeks, by Victoria Vosler.
I really like the beginning of these chapters here.
Chapter 4, Quality Time, Quality Bond. Emma noticed how the sun hung low in the sky, a soft apricot glow basking over the playground where she sat watching her son Jamie industriously digging in the sandbox. His little brow was furrowed, the purity of his focus a stark contrast to the noise and movement surrounding.
So you get the idea. Now, again, in the context of this technology, we can also do different languages. So we've got Spanish here. Started a French build out here as well. But I'll give you a little just demo, especially if you speak Spanish. I think you'll appreciate this.
Sea presente y participe plenamente. La clave para descubrir la belleza en estos momentos cotidianos es estar completamente...
So I think we get the concept here. Audiobook and text translation. Now, Chris, that was an excellent question because it's something I wanted to touch on. Right now, the way it's built out is we are only doing movable type books in the audio generation, but that is definitely coming in within the next week or two. You'll be able to upload your own any book that you've done that you have the rights to translate for either yourself or clients. That workflow is still being flushed out to make sure that everything works as expected. But yeah, that is definitely in the timeline. Now, something really cool as well we have built in here, and I just want to touch on it. We're working with this platform called Findaway Voices, and it actually will handle a lot of the audiobook distribution for you. So you can see here within the platform, itself. And we're hoping to build in this directly, but for now, we don't mind introducing you to these guys. You just upload your book and you select distribution. Right now, it distributes the book automatically to all these different platforms. And it'll also do Audible. I disabled Audible on this one just because I wanted to just test, make sure it worked, because a lot of times you want to do Audible just on its own. But you can see it's been distributed on all kinds of sites automatically. Let me see if it, here we go. So you can see already, and it takes a little bit of time, but we're already on Barnes & Noble, all that good stuff.
Preface. In every real man.
And then the copy here, oh, I didn't even touch on that. I'm a great demoer, I promise. We also generate in the book projects themselves, if you select it, a base set of marketing materials. So this was the book we just created. Sorry, I forgot to touch on this part. It'll write a sales page, a Kindle sales page, give you the base overviews and structure, some advertisements for the book itself. This is a fun little one. Novel approaches to marketing the book itself, and SEO based keywords, ad keywords, stuff like that. Marlon, it's nonfiction at the moment. That's the focus we're going to stay on for a while is nonfiction. Fiction is a bit more of a challenge in the ethics department, not so much the technical department, but the big thing being like it's uniquely I don't know. I have some weird feelings about generating with AI fiction books, because I do believe in the authorship journey with fiction. Nonfiction, I see it as a means to an end a lot of times, unless you really that's what you want to do, is be a nonfiction writer. I think most folks don't want to be an author per se. They want the benefits that come from having an awesome book. So that's why we're focusing on nonfiction for now. Does each piece of content receive all previous text as context? We solved that problem, Jacob, by creating in the back end highly detailed outlines that the book follows. So otherwise it would be very cost prohibitive, and you'd kind of get outside of your context window for each chapter that's being generated, and it would take several hours. So there's a reason why we don't inject every single chapter as it's being built into itself, if that makes sense. But okay, let's go back to the key pieces of the puzzle here. So we've got our audiobooks, we've got translations, we've got all that fun stuff. Question is, when does this go live? It was supposed to go to live today, but it looks like it's going to be tomorrow. There's a few integrity things I want to make sure are good to go on this side. However, we're still going to unlock this for anybody who signs up today. Here, we'll just go to the grand finale here. I'm not going to do a hard pitch. I think if you understand the value of this technology intrinsically, it's not even something I have to sell that hard. I am going to ask, for you guys to check it out. We're doing a special deal today for folks who join at the yearly price. You're going to be first to get access to this platform, the audiobook generation, the text translation. Obviously, you'll get the full access to everything that's already the personas generation, the book generation, the marketing generation, all that good stuff is coming in there. We do have some other awesome stuff in the timeline. I won't spend a ton of time talking on that simply because we're already at the top of the hour. I want to respect you guys' time, but we're working on course creation, podcast series creation, knowledge base integration. Audiobooks are here. Offer infusion is another big one folks are asking for. And then the one I'm most excited about is an interview mode where the platform itself is going to interview you and build the book based on your answers. For now, as I mentioned, the audiobooks and translation are going to be limited to books you create with the platform. But within the next week or two, we're going to be launching that component where you're able to translate existing materials of your own as well, and do audiobooks based on that. So yeah, that's the crux of it. I'm not going to do a hard pitch. I've done a couple webinars for this thing, and it seems like I should probably tell you the URL. This URL will ensure you get access to the early bird special first access for the audiobooks and translation. We'll be rolling that out to folks over time. So if you want to be in that first batch, we will that link will lock you in. So that's the crux of it, guys. That's my pitch. I think we all understand the value of books. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I mean, my own book, right? The beautiful. Here, I'll beep. What am I trying to show here? Oh, slides. The lovely, what is this? 7-figure marketing copy book. I was happy to be able to cross the $1 million mark on that book. And the external effects of it have gone well beyond, just the financial side, the credibility building, the access to speaking engagements, the overall pride that comes from being able to get something out there in the world that you're proud of. I mean, that never hurts either, right? And yeah, Don, I should probably mention this. You can do up to 10 books a month and iterations of those books. A lot of folks, I just introduced this new approach where if you have a book that's been generated and you want to create another version of it to keep iterating on it or refine it, we have a iteration tool which will let you actually and I'm again not being a great presenter because my video is too big, but yeah, up to 10 books a month at the moment. If you buy the yearly, we have a soft limit of 20 per month, but if you need more, that's fine too, because it's up to about 100. I think it's 120 different books. Now, audiobooks and translations are also going to be credits, so you'll see it's a credit-based system. Right now, we have it pegged at audiobooks for 5 credits and translations for 2. And we'll, because honestly, you're more likely to generate the audiobook much further down the line after you've edited a bit, refined it, all that good stuff. So you're not going to be doing those as much as the actual written books that you'll generate with this. And a lot of the books you'll want to do are more like lead generation and tools like that, as opposed to fully published books. The basic idea is giving you the ability, again, to make multiple versions of books and iterate to the point that you're super stoked on it. And then at that point, you can generate the audiobooks. Price is good for the course of this webinar for sure. I do know we're wanting to limit that initial beta group of the audiobook users at first, but I'm sure it'll be live at least through today. One more question. Yeah, you can generate multiple books. How many books? How often? I think we covered that. So no, not 10 edits, 10 complete book generations, Don, just to be clear. And a lot of folks, it makes sense. You're like, I don't need 10. Now, the idea being that there's a lot more use cases for different types of books you might have not thought of. We have some training in there walking through how to use this for lead generation, upsells, downsells, a little more like specific use cases that you might have not considered with this kind of technology. Marlon, the credits do roll over. However, you need to use them with a active account, if that makes sense. So just to be clear on that, yeah, they do roll over month to month. several books, I'd like to consolidate them into one good book. That's another good use case for this, Don. A lot of folks, since we're at kind of a 10 chapter chunk, we're looking to solve one big problem with our books. A lot of times what people will do is they'll generate, say, 5 different books solving 5 different key problems for their target audience, and then they'll merge them together into one giant book, 500-600 pages. And Don, yeah, I mean, at the moment we're looking at a couple different approaches to letting people upload manuscripts that they've already been working on, or notes, or connect with Notion, all that good stuff. We're very close to bringing that to life. It's a bit of an uphill challenge because there's these weird edge cases where we want to avoid people uploading other people's books. Like there's some checks we have to have in place. Ideally, what you would be able to do is upload all your notes, your outlines, your thoughts into the platform and have it serve as a bedrock as well for content generation. Have a new outline. Yeah, so Stu, you can input the outline in that initial creation process, and it'll emulate it right through that, but you can also edit the one that it generates and put in your own outline there. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense, Don. If you're making a couple different iterations to keep refining the voice and tone, that's another good use case for having multiple books. Not to change the subject, but if you're copywriting through, yeah, me too, David. I'm getting there, I promise. I mean, funny enough, the reason this platform was created in general, the start of it was, for me, it's very much almost a mental barrier. Like I don't want to say it's a disability, but like when I'm writing, structuring my thoughts is one of the more complex things. I don't know, perhaps while you're listening, you can dissertain that as well. But seeing how incredible this type of technology is, it made sense to me to dive headfirst into finding ways to leverage it to help me in my own quest of creating the best version of my book, right? So I'm sure anybody out there who has written a book, it's on your list to do, to either republish it with updated new information, modify it, all that good stuff. The idea with Movable Type is we're serving as a platform for you to keep those iterations, to keep building on them and expanding. And maybe you want to explore a whole new subject down a new path and write a new book, or even revisiting and expanding upon a book you've already written. Stu, we don't have a lifetime price at the moment because there is quite a hard cost for us for each book generated, each audiobook. We're leveraging some of the most advanced AI tech out there. The prices, our approach to doing it is quite expensive for us. Like there's an actual hard cost per generation. We find that that's what gives us the competitive advantage, right? So while we don't have a lifetime price, that I mean, simply not feasible at the moment unless we charge quite a bit more. Okay. What are use cases for book proposal generation? So Marlon, just to reiterate, because that's a good question, but I want to make sure it's not lost in folks. The proposal phase, that's generated, it serves as the foundation for you to generate the entire book. So I'll retouch on that because that's a good question. And again, if you want to lock in your spot today, MovableType.ai/join today, all one word, will get you set up right in the platform today. And then over the coming days, we'll be unlocking audiobooks and translations just for our folks signing up through this webinar and beta testers, stuff. But to Marlon's question, it's a 3-phase book generation. So we're giving it our base ideas, and then it generates a proposal. And that book proposal is kind of what you would do if you're sitting down and wanting to write your own book from scratch. You'd come up with key components of it. You define the problem that the book solves, the big idea, the promise of the book, all the things you see here, and this is our book proposal, right? It's what we propose to you that your book should contain. Now you can go in here and refine this to your heart's content, especially if you have a really good idea, specific idea of what kind of book you want to create. Refine that and edit that proposal. Along those lines, it gives you a proposed outline, which you can modify. It's a little bit of stipulations there. You'll watch this video when you get in there. The outline structure at the moment it's pretty set, but as I mentioned earlier, we're going to change that up down the road. But you can modify this, the language behind it, all that good stuff. Then from there, when we approve the book for generation, it will take all these key components in that proposal and actually create the book. Does that make sense, Marlon? I want to make sure I covered that right. Then, of course, audiobooks and translations all come in after that initial book's created. But again, we're going to be implementing a way where you can upload your own goodies as well. All right. So I'll do my last invitation for you guys to sign up. Questions outside of what we're discussing here today, I'll put our support email in here as well, just in case you have any further questions. But definitely get signed up. We have an awesome group, about 500 folks in there at the moment. More coming in every day. We have a Slack community. That's super active, and we're working to improve that all the time as well. And then let's cover some more of these questions here. Graphics, I love the ones used within available market. Yes, so the covers themselves, just so we're clear. Again, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle here, so it's hard to cover everything. But once you have a cover, because you can actually generate covers within here. I kind of love that cover, so I'm going to generate a new one. Working on a new build out approach to this as well, but we have a couple different styles that you can pick from. But to your question there, yes, Marlon, you can actually download the HD version and use it within anything you want to create the covers. I actually have some training in here on how to take the base graphic and go into Canva. Let's see if I have this pulled up. Yeah. And within a few minutes, right, use your base image and let Canva do the fun typography for you, right? Working on a built-in system to do that, but for now, it's hard to beat the billion-dollar behemoth that is Canva. And it's free, which doesn't hurt. Do chapters ever repeat information since they don't receive all context? Jacob, that's something that is a good question, because it is tough to ensure that each chapter covers unique information. The problem is giving a hyper detailed outline that you actually don't see in the front, the outline that's created in the proposal phase, and provides very in-depth instructions so that a topic covered in section 2 of chapter 1 is not recovered in chapter 8 section 4, if that makes sense. So yeah, the act of going in and editing and refining the book itself, you're going to be able to identify a few, if there's some redundancy in there, and it happens from time to time. But the idea, again, with this, in my opinion, in the approach philosophy we're taking, is that you want to go in and make this manuscript your own as well. Like it's a good act to go in there and add, edit, remove, be the editor at this phase, which to me is a lot easier of a prospect, because you're either removing or expanding or elaborating. Like anybody can do that if you know how to write, or even if you don't know how to write. It's editing is a lot more straightforward of a task in my experience. So hope that makes sense. All right. Credit cost. So just to touch on that again, Tony. So books and book iterations, they're 1 credit, and you get up to 120 a year. And we're going to have some packages built into the platform where you get a hyper reduced rate for credits. We haven't decided exactly what that's going to look like yet for if you're a member and say you use your credits. On the yearly, it's 120 at the moment. Audiobook generation is going to be 5 credits, and translation is going to be, I think it's 2 credits. Yeah, 2 credits. Sorry, that's not super clear on the page just yet. We just launched this these 2 new components, and that's what the webinar is all about today, of course. So, but feel free, as you're going through the platform and working with it, if you let me know in the Slack community or email support as you're creating a book, if something's off or it doesn't look, you're not happy with the output, I give extra credits all the time to folks who find that, maybe it went off the rails and decided to explore something outside of your scope. So, I want people to use this as much as I don't want them to be like, oh, I'm not even sure if I should use the credit yet. I want people to experiment. So don't hesitate to reach out if a generation doesn't go the way you want. Yeah, 2 credits per language. So if you have it in English, you want to translate it over to Spanish, 2 credits. That makes sense. Okay. Dude, love that, David. Appreciate you, man. Been with a few months now. Honestly, it's awesome. On my 3rd book, never ever would have gotten to the place where without Movable Type. Appreciate you, brother. I think a lot of folks, especially if they've been putting it off for a long time, just having a starting point is so powerful. And that's really what we're hoping to give people beyond anything else. The starting point, it's pretty far advanced, right? We could have built a platform that only did like the outline and proposal phase and gave you something to write from. The generation itself gives you that initial manuscript, right? That no one else is going to have. There's so much variability in these that no 2 books are going to be alike. And the beauty of it is, even if you put in the same input twice, you're going to get fairly different outputs because of ability. So that starting point, that manuscript, it's inevitable for a lot of folks. Deanna, 120 credits. It's 120 different books if you look at it that way, or it's book iterations, book creations. Some people like to create multiple versions, combine them. We've talked about a couple different approaches to use use different book creation methods, combinations. But also that's, I'm bad at math. 120 divided by 5. Let's see. It's over 24 different audiobook generations, 60 different translations. And a lot of folks who come in, they want to make 1 to 5 different iterations of the book and then do their an audiobook and a couple translations, a couple different audiobook translations as well, right? You're going to find that 120 is going to give you a lot of padding for experimentation. And it's why I definitely recommend the yearly for folks. Just get in there, get everything you need done with one go, and you're set. All right. Yeah, and Deanna, 10 if you're on the monthly, it's 10 a month. If you're on the yearly, we have what I'm calling basically a soft cap, about 20. And the reason for that is we want to keep people from abusing the platform and just not putting any thought into their generation and just creating, gobs of books to throw at Amazon and see what sticks. This platform isn't a get rich quick scheme in the sense that, like, there's a lot of folks who teach AI book development and it's all about getting that book on Amazon and just making money. We want people to put thought into these things. But the way it works is once you hit 20 in a given month, we're notified. We take a look and just make sure that it's, not anything malicious or spammy, and then we lift that cap for folks. Yeah, Suzanne, if you're already a member, we will be rolling this out over the next month. Folks who sign up today through this special offer are going to get earlier access. But message me or email support since you're on here. Anybody who's on here is already a member. You know what? Here's what I'll tell you. If you're on here, you're already a member, a paying member. I have a list of folks who have registered and attended. I will make sure that you're on that early bird bonus list as well, the early access. So just to be clear on that, I will make sure that it's good to go. Patricia says, I heard that Amazon recognizes books that are written by AI and does not accept this type of book. That is incorrect. They do take AI books. They ask you to disclose them. And it's done when you upload the book. They do limit you to 3 books a day on their platform and uploading. But they do not, they do let you use AI books. Now, here's what I recommend for folks. I definitely recommend going in and quote unquote making it your own. In the sense, go in, edit it, read it. You want to, like, the idea being here too, like if you want to use this for credibility building, you're creating a book in your field, you're an expert in the space, right? Like you want to make sure that it is reflecting what you want it to say. So it's your job to go in as an editor. But trust me, I mean, I calculated it. I had about 4 hours per page in my book. I have about 400 pages in there just of editing, designing, researching, all that good stuff, right? We're giving you the starting point of a manuscript where you just get to spend a few hours editing. Quite a different proposition there, if that makes sense. So hope that answers your question, Patricia. They do allow for that, but even if they didn't, the idea being here, we're starting with a manuscript that's hyper developed and we can edit it to make it ours. Why are purchase books only? So you will be able to, Jacob, just to be clear, you get access to any that you generate within the platform as long as you can log in. So if you refund, stuff like that, we remove access, but you're able to access your credits and your projects, even if you cancel. All right, guys, I think that's about all the time we have today. Appreciate everyone who's signed up and gotten back into the platform. In the Slack group, which if you go in here under you'll see the join the Slack group once you're inside. Join that group. That's where we'll be announcing, the first batch of releases for the audiobooks and translations. And we have a really awesome community in there. If you have any more questions, you can expand on, or we can expand on that for you. But go ahead and get signed up. The special link for today is MovableType.ai/join today. So I think we'll wrap it there, guys. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the inside.